Well, folks, hi, how are you? It's Leigh Farnell again, leading your best life. And today I'm with Greg Waters. Greg's in Shepparton, Victoria, but he has been all around the world with his skills in changing, empowering, healing people. And there's going to be a fantastic story today. Inner power is what Greg is going to be talking about and more. But Greg, welcome to Leading Your Best Life.
Thanks, Leigh. Great to be here.
Mate, what's it like in Shepparton today? Is it sunny? What's going on over in Shepparton?
Yeah, the weather's outstanding here. So for about 8 months of the year, it's pretty much picture perfect. And we had sort of -3 this morning. So when the toes hit the grass and there was a white frost on there, they did get a little bit brittle.
Wow, that's courageous. Bare toes on frosty grass. We can talk about the therapeutic effects of that as we go on. But Greg, tell us about your story, the journey. You're in Shepparton, but you've been all around the place. So tell us, where were you born? What's your background, your education? What are some of the things that have influenced you to get to where you are now?
So born in the country, grew up as a farming family. My father was an electrical contractor, but my grandmother had a farm, and we spent a lot of time on the dairy farm, riding horses, sustainable living, swimming in the King River. So that was over at Wangaratta.
Ah, Wangaratta. I've got
Yeah.
plenty of mates up in Wangaratta.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. And the farm was at the base of Mount Feathertop, sort of about halfway through the valley at Moreau.
Fantastic. I've heard of that term, Moreau. In fact, I wonder if my mate Ray used to play footy out there, because I've got a funny feeling. But anyway, my mate Andrew Sanger and Ray Cyrilis and Paul Shapina, a bunch of guys I went to uni with, are all from Wangaratta. So what got from Wangaratta, where did you go? Because wasn't Nick Cave also from Wangaratta, the singer, the musician?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about music, but
Okay.
yeah. And from there I went to uni. So I went to Footscray Institute, and which is a science degree, which is where all the sports science stuff comes about.
Yep.
And as one of the courses, I started to do yoga, and
Ah,
really good, and felt the more relaxation in the body and the hips and the back and the neck and things like that. And I was like, oh, there's something powerful in this. So much later I became a yoga teacher, but I continued to do yoga and a yoga practice from about the age of 20. But it was all new to me because I was a country boy, so I'd never really been to the big smoke. So it was quite exciting to be exposed to all that and be exposed to sports science and laboratories and cells and muscles and bones and biomechanics.
VO2 max, oxygen uptake. So what sport did you do? Because usually, I mean, the same with me, mate. I was a frustrated footballer in Eaglehawk and got into swimming. And then once somebody said to me one day, what do you want to do? And maybe you should be a phys ed teacher. And that's what got me to do human performance at Melbourne Uni. So we've got a similar background there. What sport did you do in the country that got you to say, I want to do sports science?
So I did everything. So I played golf, won a couple of Victorian championships as a junior, uh, football, basketball, volleyball, water skiing. So barefoot water skiing and
Wow.
skiing and all that, jumping and all that sort of stuff. Just mad on anything with speed and motion. That was me.
Anything with speed and motion. And so what was your motivation to choose sports science rather than, say, law or banking or something like that?
I was reasonably good at economics, and I went to my father and said, I've got two choices. I can go commerce and business, or I can go sports science. And he said to me, which I'm very, very thankful that he was quite an easygoing guy. He said, which one do you enjoy more? Which one will make you happier? Which one do you think will be more fun?
Wow.
And I was like, the word fun was like, wow,
Yeah.
sports science. And he said, go for that. So I did.
Yeah. What a guy. Well,
Mm.
we often talk about those critical conversations. So those one conversations in life can point you down a different path. And that's a beautiful conversation you had with Dad on that occasion, for sure. So what happened? You got into yoga, which of course in the sports science days, I mean, certainly yoga was way out on the periphery in our world at that, in the 70s when I was doing it. But so it was probably somewhere near the periphery in sports science when you were doing it. But so what happened? How you combined the two, sports science? What happened then?
So yoga was just one of the courses or one of the classes that we did.
Fantastic.
And I really took to it. You're right, it was sort of on the periphery, off the reservation, I guess, a bit of that weird woo-woo Eastern sort of stuff. But Yeah, it really gelled with me. So I just followed my heart and continued to do Eastern things as I went along, because I worked in the media for 30 years. So when I finished, I graduated and I was working with Melbourne Football Club, one of the AFL clubs,
Yeah, sure,
with
Melbourne.
the under-19s.
Uh-huh.
And then I got offered, strangely, I got offered a cadetship at Channel 10 as a sports journalist, working with Eddie Maguire and Steve Quartermain.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, wow,
With the big boys.
for a boy from the country who'd never really been to the big smoke, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I said yes to that and started a cadetship at Channel 10. And then I spent 30 years in the media. So I did a lot of different jobs in the media, in front of the camera, behind the camera. I was a TV producer, made TV shows. And then for a short time in between, when I sort of finished my career at Channel 7, I did run a digital agency for a couple of years, and I did a lot of shooting myself, voiceovers myself, script writing myself, making docos, making TV commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to Channel 7 for a couple of years in Sydney. So I finished my time in the media at Channel 7 in Sydney. And then after about the 2 years, I closed the door, and I remember thinking, oh, what am I going to do now?
Mm.
And it sort of came over me. It's like, how about Asia? How about, we go and work with some really, really high level healers and some, herbal therapists. And that's what I did. I went up to Malaysia and worked with a master up there. And I ended up in Singapore for 6 years.
Wow. Wow. And so tell me about the inner power and some of the things you've been doing, because you talk about Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka. What was going on? Well, what does go on in what you're doing with inner power?
So it was a medical clinic up there. I ran the medical clinic. I worked with another practitioner, another therapist, and he was a Varma master. So not a lot of people would know what Varma is, but Varma is an ancient science and art of healing. And it works, it's like trigger point therapy, pressure point therapy, acupressure, no needles.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just phenomenal, amazing. So a lot of new learning for me to work with someone like that, regarding around herbs and exercises and breathing and learning Varma. And Varma sort of comes from a thing called Siddha medicine, which is what they call it in the East. And in the West, that would be Ayurvedic.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, on both occasions, as you know, our mutual friend Andrea, my yoga teacher here in Perth, referred me to that I should talk to you. We did a magnificent podcast last week on yoga, and then I have Naja Ahuja, who is my Ayurvedic medicine. She runs Perth Ayurvedic Medicine Centre here in Perth. In fact, she said, Leigh, it's World Yoga Day, Friday this week, so we've got to do something about that. So we're doing some promotions for that. So Ayurvedic, of course, I've done a range of treatments with her over the years with nausea, and just incredible. And to think that, as she said, the oral tradition of that's 40,000 years old, and it's at least 5,000 or 6,000 years.
Correct.
So there's been 5,000 or 6,000 years of experimenting and learning, and yet it's still relatively unknown here in. I mean, obviously, Deepak Chopra has done a great job in promoting and introducing that. So give me some examples maybe of, without people's names and so on, but the types of conditions or situations or pain or health conditions people have when they come to you, and what goes on, and what have been some of the transformations that have happened, just to give people some concrete idea of the impact and the value of inner power and the kinds of things you're doing.
Absolutely. So some of the programs that we run are like weight management, pain management, spiritual mentoring, Ayurvedic nutrition, and just plain nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So, the best thing to do is talk about case studies. So I spoke with a lady yesterday, Harriet from Scotland, and she's one of our clients. We do everything over Zoom. So it's non-local.
Wow.
Is good, and that's thanks to COVID, because someone rang me and they said, hey, can you do that weight management program over Zoom? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not sure. They said, well, I'm going to be your first one, I'll sign up. I said, okay, let's do it. And we got really good results. So it's done all over the world, America, England, Europe, and different parts of Australia. So I've got clients in Perth, And this particular lady, Harriet, lives in Scotland, and she just finished the 16-week program yesterday, and she wrote a nice testimonial, which is great, which I'm happy to share with you. But the
Please
basis of
do.
it was she was very thankful. So
Yeah.
there were stones over there. So she lost about 1.5 stones.
Mm.
But one of the amazing things as the byproduct of her journey and moving her from foods that inflamed her and caused her a lot of pain and suffering to foods that, didn't inflame her, that de-inflamed her. She used to get cluster migraines, and she's had those for over 12 years. And I didn't really know at the time. I mean, she may have mentioned at the start, but I didn't give it another thought.
Mm.
And then she said to me, oh, while I've been on your program, I haven't had a migraine.
Wow.
I said, you've been on the program a long time. I said, how many migraines did you get per month? And she said, 6, 8. So I'm like, 2 a week, and you've gone to 0. And I said, why didn't you say anything earlier? And she said, well, I was sort of expecting them to coming back, so I didn't want to jinx myself. I said, hey, that's totally fair enough. But the migraines are completely left her. But she was in a lot of pain. She was like a 43-year-old lady, and she said she was getting out of bed and feeling like a 70-year-old, and she thought that was normal.
Wow.
When I came on board, I said, no, that's not normal. We've got to do something about that. She goes, I've tried everything. What can I do?
I've tried everything. I've tried everything in my comfort zone or body of knowledge. Yeah.
And that she was on different medications. So different migraine pain medications, blockers, probably more than likely. And so we took her all off those, and she followed the program. She executed the program, which is a little bit of exercise, a little bit of breathing. And one of the breathing techniques I want to teach you today, it doesn't take long, called fire breath. It's not Bastrika or bellows breathing, which is a lot of people think that's what fire breath is, but that's actually a different version of fire breath. And so we did the program, helped her detox her body. She lost the weight that she wanted to lose. She's now got more energy. She's pain-free. And she just said it was life-changing experience for her, working with her. So she was a vegetarian, but we work with people who also eat meat as well. And, there are healthy vegetarians and there are unhealthy vegetarians, and there are healthy meat eaters and there are unhealthy meat eaters. I am a vegetarian, but, we don't have a preference, and different bodies go well with different types of diets. So one of the main things with Ayurveda or Siddha medicine is that it's specific to your type of body.
Yes.
So three doshas are Pitta, Vata, Kapha, which is earth, fire, and air. And they all have different characteristics. So one of the beautiful gifts from Ayurveda is that if you come to us, Leigh, we treat you as an individual. We don't take a model from Andrea or your other Ayurvedic practitioner and go, hey, Leigh, this has worked with these guys. This is what you're locked into now. So we interview you psychologically, physically, and spiritually. So we do an energetic analysis, a psychological analysis, and a physical analysis, and we put the three together, and we work very hard to help you become the best version of yourself. That's what it's all about.
And as you say, Ayurvedic, it's a Bitaz Naja, and I remember, I've forgotten the lady's name out of Queensland, but Roger Hamilton had they did like a test and said and I can't remember what I was, to tell you the truth now. It's written down somewhere. I think it's the skinny, fast moving person, whatever that is. What was that one? What's that?
Fire element.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of energy.
Yes. And so again, so let's just talk about, when you say foods that inflame or de-inflame, are you saying that foods that inflame one type, the fire, may not inflame the earth, or is that how it works?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's specific to the individual. So there are certain things that, moringa powder, which comes from a tree, comes from a leaf, and that is de-inflaming. That would pretty much generally work with everybody. So and trifla. So this one, trifla, which comes from 3 fruits. This is a famous one in Ayurveda.
Right, trifla.
It comes from three berries, and that is one that is de-inflaming, and it's good for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So there are general ones that are across the board, and then there are specific ones that if you're a Vata, one of them is ashwagandha. So have you heard of ashwagandha before?
No, not at all.
So ashwagandha is it's like Indian ginseng.
Uh-huh.
And if you're a pitta and a lot of fire, you probably wouldn't take ashwagandha every day. You might take it on the weekend when you're doing sport, when you need a little bit more fire, a little bit more heat, but you wouldn't take it every day.
Okay, wow. Wow. And as I keep coming back to the fact that this has been around for at least 6,000 years and yet still relatively unknown in this part of the world. Well, let's talk about that breathing. Again, Andrea has been fantastic. One, the book Breath, which was, I'd heard about, but I've immersed myself more in that. And then the whole idea of breathing through the nose, which is in that book, but also the relationship with cortisol. And again, as I said to Andrea, these, whether it be Buddhism or others, sitting in caves for thousands of years in one form or another, experimenting with the impact and the effect of breath. Talk to me a bit about what you teach or what you advocate in regard to breath and leading your best life.
So as a yoga teacher, pranayama is part of my toolkit as well. And James Nestor, Please Take a Bow. That book, it took him 10 years and he did an amazing job.
Yeah.
I nearly didn't buy that book, by the way. So I have hundreds of books like that. And I looked at it and was like, hey, do you really need one more breathing book, Greg? Do you? Have you read thoroughly all the ones you've got? I nearly didn't buy that book. And I was like, oh, give it a go. And as I'm reading, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is phenomenal. Listen to every page. I just couldn't wait to get to the end of each chapter. So James Nestor did a fantastic job. He covered most of what I know as the breathing techniques. And one of the things I took away from that book is that most of us our breathing pattern is 10, 12, 15 breaths per minute. And the Goldilocks number is 5.5. And as a pranayama practitioner and as a yoga teacher, I really delved into that, and all the research that they did when they tapped up their mouths and they did mouth breathing and they did nose breathing and they did Tumo breath and they did Nadi Shodhana and which is alternate nostril breathing, and Ujjayi breathing, which I heard you discussing with Andrea. It's 5.5. So we're all over breathing, and most of us think we're under breathing because the data, which obviously as a sports scientist I'm very interested in, the data is phenomenal on overbreathing. So if you breathe 10, 12 or 15 times a minute and you take in half a litre or a litre, depending on your lung capacity, that means you're taking in around 10 litres a minute. Now, my question for you is, and I don't expect you to know the answer, but my question for you is, how much of that available oxygen is your body using over that 1 minute? Do you know the answer to that?
No.
It's 3%, 300 mils, which is nothing.
So we're well and truly over breathing.
It's well and truly over breathing, and we're not breathing out enough. So the diaphragm is the laziest muscle in the body because we sit inside all day, whereas we're not designed to sit inside all day. We spend 15% of our time outside and 85% of our time inside. It should be flipped around. So, and that's a whole nother conversation about grounding and earthing and being out in the sunlight and vitamin D and all those other things. But we're locked in a box. We drive to work in a box. We go home to a box. We sleep in a box. So we're in boxes all day.
And you end up in a box.
We end up in a box.
Too soon. So just coming back to that over breathing, interestingly, my mate David, who I did a podcast with yesterday, we did a lot of fantastic work across Asia. In fact, he was in Singapore. He lives in Singapore these days, and he has been into yoga. And it was back in about 2017. And he knew I swam every day. And he said, I don't think you breathe right. I said, what the hell? How that? He said, I think you're breathing too shallow. I said, I kind of took offense, like, mate, I swim how can you say that? But of course, now I understand, we're breathing just in that top part of the lung, as you say, not the diaphragm, even though when I'm, training hard, the diaphragm's working, but it's still, he then brought up the fact that linkage between over breathing and then pH levels in terms of oxidation and so on in the body. Well, now it starts to get, besides it's not just oxygen, well, it's oxygen, but the relationship with pH level and toxicity or not the best environment internally. Would you like to comment to that?
Sure. So I think what he's saying is, mouth breathing is acidic, and nose breathing is more alkaline.
Mm,
But it depends how you're doing the nose breathing. It depends how you're doing the mouth breathing as well.
mm,
So you're a pitta. So you're a pitta, which is the fire element. So your body is quite tight, just like mine. Quite
mm,
tight around the diaphragm, quite tight around the lungs. Pittas, generally speaking, are not good breathers.
mm,
We're not very good breathers.
mm,
We're very tight, very muscular, a lot of energy, a lot of activity, but we're not great breathers. The other two, Vata and Kapha, are much better breathers than a Pitta body. And when the oxygen goes into a Pitta body, because of the fire burns the oxygen up. So
mhm,
we have to make a deliberate attempt to breathe more slowly, in a more relaxed fashion, and push with the diaphragm. The exhalation should be longer than the inhalation. So breathing is a science. Like I've been studying it probably for the last 15 or 20 years, and I feel as though I'm not even anywhere near the peak of the mountain. I'm
mm,
still at the foothills, because it's so incredible. And as some famous scientists say, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, and the absence of oxygen is the presence of disease. So it's vice versa as well.
mm.
So if you do have some ailments, can you improve those ailments with breathing? I believe you can, absolutely, 100%, because I've done it myself. And like that lady, like Harriet from Scotland, she had migraine headaches for over 12 years, and now she doesn't have them.
Oh, what a gift. What a gift. You're reminding me of one of my clients years ago in Darwin. Was overweight, and I think he was terribly stressed, and somehow he got into Butenko breathing, and he was walking around with two stopwatches around his neck. But over about a 6 week period, he must have lost, as you say, at least a stone. This guy transformed himself. And I said, "What are you doing? You're running marathons or something?" And he said, I've changed the way I'm breathing. And of course, mate, I did a degree at Melbourne Uni and a master's degree in phys ed here at UWA, and nowhere did anyone ever talk about you can lose weight by changing the way you breathe. But he was an example of it. And obviously, again, coming back to the Eastern, all the Eastern science, this is not new. So talk to me about this fire breath that you were talking about there. You want to teach me what mechanism, what's all that about?
And by the way, I do use the Buteyko method.
Oh,
So
yes.
called nitric oxide breathing.
Ah,
You're activating the nitric oxide molecules, which are already there in your septum, in your nose,
really?
and you're bringing them into the bloodstream. And the power of those nitric oxide molecules is vasodilation, so lower
Yes.
blood pressure,
Right.
relaxation. And it's also the method, the nitric oxide breathing method, or putting more nitric oxide into your body, is antibacterial, antiviral. So
Wow.
you're increasing the surface area of the alveoli.
Wow.
So
Well,
it's phenomenal. The Buteyko method, Buteyko was a genius, and he discovered that method by putting his head against the wall, the window, and monitoring his own breathing.
oh, I see, breathing against the window.
Breathing against the window, and he could see what was going on, and he tweaked it, and he was watching the breath on the window. And then he went straight into the ward. There was a patient of his that wasn't doing very well, and he said, "Try this." And the patient did it, and the patient said, "Yeah, I feel much better." And that's when he knew, "Hey, I'm onto something," and developed the Buteyko method. But he was a genius, incredible man. And again, take a bow. Thank you very much, society. Thank you very much, people like me and people like you and people who want to improve their fitness and improve their health simply by breathing. But it's not just big breath
Yeah.
in, big breath out. It's
Mm.
actually different methods, because the different airways do different things.
Mate, that's news to me in terms of those notes. See, here I'm considering 8 years at university, not one. There was no mention of that. My mate Tomo he said the Butenko method cured him of his asthma, and this guy was a biochemist. He worked at the hospital. He was proud to be a scientist, and he said, "It's all science. It's all there. It's all in the Krebs cycle and oxidation and pH levels." And my other mates who had asthma, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You got to have the puffer." Oh, yeah. Well, this is all, but I mean, it's all there again. It's science. It's Isn't it crazy the lag time? Someone like Patenko. Now that was when was that? The 40s or the 50s or whenever he come up with that. The lag time for that it's still not mainstream accepted. If you went to a GP tomorrow and said, I want to do the Patenko method to help me with my asthma, the GP would still look at you, I think, with what are you talking about, mate? There's an ad in the paper, I think, once a week over here in Perth for Patenko method, and I gather obviously it ticks on, mate. That's why we do what we do. It's like educating people. So what happened to me at our Blokes Talk Beachside meeting just before Christmas, an 83-year-old guy came and spoke to us, and as part of his talk, he talked about taping the mouth. I went, what the hell is he talking? Anyway, I've been on a sleep apnea machine for years, and certainly I knew I got better sleep because I must have, snoring, and my wife was complaining about me snoring and so on. The taping the mouth, I thought I was going to choke, how am I going to breathe? My nostrils, I know for years, I've never been able to breathe through both nostrils, and then the taping, now my nostrils are clear and I'm getting fantastic sleep with a $3 roll of tape once every 2 months kind of thing. Phenomenal. It's like I'm 67 or whatever years of age now, and we're still learning about things to lead our best life. But of course, you've got to be open to it and you've got to be exposed to it. So tell me more about the breathing method you wanted to teach me today, Greg.
So fire breath, and the best way to talk about it and explain it is actually, an example, a case study. So I had a client in Queensland, and she was a high-level scientist, this lady. She was quite, reserved about the whole thing when she started. And about 8 weeks in, she said, I said, let's do fire breath. So we do fire breath every session. And she said, oh, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I said, you didn't seem that keen at the start. She goes, oh, now, but I know it works. I said, how do you know? She goes, oh, I'm wearing a watch. I said, oh, one of those Apple Watch. She goes, yeah. I said, or it might have been some other watch. And she said, yeah, my VO2 max has increased, which is a fancy science word, as we know, for lung capacity.
Oxygen uptake, yeah.
I said, is it significant? She said, oh, yeah, it's significant. I said, can you send me the photos from your watch? She said, yeah, I will. And she said, that's how I know it's all working, Greg. She said, my VO2 max has improved. My pants are much looser. Wow. And I'm feeling much more energetic and enthusiastic. And I said, that's fantastic. I said, now do you believe in the power of breath? She goes, oh, absolutely, 100%. She said, because I've not only am I feeling it in my body, but I've got the data back it up on my watch that before she joined Inner Power X and the weight management program, the graph was going down like that. And it sort of, as she started with us, it turned around and it went back up again. And it was over 10%, which is a phenomenal, I've been doing other things with her and taking her off certain foods and introducing other foods and powders and things like that. So it wasn't just one thing, but fire breath is phenomenal. And it certainly is one of my top 3 things. So it was credit where credit due. It was given by the Malaysian Master Pranic, to spread by all his teachers of Inner Power X to their communities and to everybody, and it's given away for free. So if someone texts me and says, hey, I'd like to learn fire breath, it doesn't cost any money. You come on and we do a 45-minute consult. It's a free consult. I do my first consult for free, and everybody learns fire breath. So what you do, Leigh, is you put your left hand, there's a lock, your left hand on your shoulder like that, and then your right hand over the top like that. And you're going to be breathing out through your nose. That's all. And it's nice and gentle. I'll just do a little demonstration for 5 or 10 seconds to show you, and then you can join in. So you take like half a breath and then you breathe out through the nose. Okay, keep your eyes open for the first couple. We're going to do 4 sets of 30. And the 2 beginner ones of about 15 seconds. So get ready to go. Just relax your face, relax your eyes. And the people listening can join in as well. Relax your jaw. There's a lot of tension in the jaw. Relax the neck, relax the shoulders. Drop those shoulders down a little bit. Relax the whole body, relax the lungs. And in 3, 2, 1, breathe in, half a breath. And exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. Okay, have a rest. So we have a rest in between.
It's 30 breaths out through the nose, is it?
We just do it for 30 seconds. So you
30
do
seconds. Okay, so
it on timer. That was about 15 seconds.
okay.
We'll do another practice one, and then we'll do the 4 sets of 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
I'll time it for you. Get ready to go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale a breath and exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. Okay, have a rest. So what you're doing there is you're just pushing out.
Yeah.
You're not really inhaling. You're just using
No.
your attention and all your effort to push the carbon dioxide out of your body. And what that does is create an oxygen void. And when you finish, all the oxygen rushes back into your body because you've created a deficit. You're working with carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
You're decreasing your carbon dioxide sensitivity. So your body is becoming more accustomed to those gases in your body.
Right. Changing that internal chemistry.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And the nitrogen in your head, and you're working with the airways, and you're working with
Wow.
ventilation tubes, and you're working with the middle ear and all those sorts of things. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do the proper one. Now close your eyes. Put the tongue on the palate if that's comfortable for you, just behind the teeth, because it's always more powerful. Everything we do, it's always more powerful with the tongue behind the teeth, because that connects the channels in the body, the meridians in the body, and the two main ones are the conception channel in the front in Chinese medicine and the governor channel in the back. So they're the two we're connecting, and it always makes it more powerful. Get ready to go. Close your eyes, tongue on the palate. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale half a breath. Exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. Okay, have a rest. Now your body's starting to heat up.
I thought I was going to die. This is going to help me with my swimming, because I know at times holding my breath for 5 or 7 strokes sometimes is, even though I do all this swimming, I think this is going to be very helpful. Yeah.
Very, very helpful. Okay, we've got a little way to go. So just relax. And this step is just, it's like a meditation, breathing in healing and balance and harmony, and exhaling any lower vibrations, any stress, any unproductive energies, anything that's not working for you, any blockages, and inhaling self-care, self-nurturing, self-love, and exhaling anything that's negative, any unproductive energies, anything that's blocking you, anything that's stopping you, and inhaling strength, courage, resilience, rejuvenation, regeneration, and exhaling any tension, any stress, any blockages, any unproductive energies. As we go for number 2, in about 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale half a breath. Exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. Have a rest. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your hands on your shoulders, and inhaling calmness, relaxation, stillness, and serenity. And exhaling anything that's bothering you, any unproductive energies, any sadness, any trauma, any negative energies. And inhaling self-care, self-love, self-nurturing. And exhaling any stress, any tension, any blockages. As we go for the third one, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale half a breath. Exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. That's it. Relax. 3 down, 1 to go. And just breathing in normally. Breathing in nice and easy, breathing in out nice and easy. Breathing in calmness and stillness and healing, and exhaling any tension, any stress, any acidity, any blockages, any unproductive energies. And inhaling strength, courage, resilience, rejuvenation, regeneration, and exhaling any acidity, any tension, any unproductive energies, anything that's blocking you or stopping you. As we go for the last one, in 3, 2, 1, inhale half a breath. Exhale rapidly but gently through the nose. Push. Okay, just relax your arms, open your eyes. How do you feel?
What an amazing exercise, mate. It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, well, none of that. As I'm getting to the end of that 30 seconds, I'm thinking, am I going to survive this? You know, my breath. So I think straight away it says to me, as an exercise getting better at, I don't know if there's carbon dioxide building up or whatever's going on in the system, but that, my God, I need to breathe. I need to breathe now, But
It did get easier though, right? So the first
yes,
one was quite hard, and then as you did the last one, it got easier and easier.
yeah, because you're staying calmer during it and all of that, yeah.
And the things that are blocked are getting unblocked. So
Yeah.
the 3 main channels, your Ayurvedic lady will know this as the Sushumna that runs down the middle, the Pingala that's on the right, which is the heating channel, and the Ida, which is the cooling channel on the left. So Nadi Luna on the left, Nadi Solar on the right, and the Sushumna down the middle. And those channels, which are connected to your chakras, are getting wider and wider and wider. So if you breathe in now, so just take a normal breath through your nose. Easier?
Yeah, sure. I can certainly, yeah. And, I think back to times when I felt stressed in the past. My wife, I would actually do big sighs. Like a lot of it was in the mouth, out of the mouth. And my wife would go, well, you're always sighing. I was going, well, usually on a bad day when there was stress. That was a good couple of years ago now when that was the case. Whereas certainly since doing the way more nose breathing at night, but this exercise alone could take that to a whole other level, which I've never done any of this, the breath work. I hear people say they do breath work workshops and so on. So I gather that's the sort of thing you guys do in those breath work workshops, is it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a breathing course and we teach you fire breath. We teach you nitric oxide breath, and most of the Eastern breathing techniques. So I used to do 45 minutes a day, every day. And now I just do 5 minutes. So I just do fire breath. Occasionally on the weekends or when I'm taking the workshops, I will do the other ones like alternate nostril breathing or bellows breathing or Vastrika, because I'm a big believer in those breathing techniques. Primarily, fire breath has overtaken all those techniques because it's so good. It's so powerful. It's so phenomenal. The other ones are good, but I find my personal preference is to do fire breath.
Yeah. Wow.
And it can't be done after 6 p.m. So what happens when we're getting to teach it? The masters will come and wake us up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll do 30 minutes of fire breath. So we do that for 30 minutes. And this is in the tropics where it's hot. So there's a massive pool of sweat sitting around you. And this is just the basic level. We're doing the more advanced level. So there's leg locks as well and bandhas and things like that in yoga that you have to use. And then you do the 30 minutes and then they say, okay, now go back to sleep. Of course, you can't sleep. There's no way you're going to sleep. You've got so much energy and so energetic. So what this does, the fine main things this does is it accelerates the detox in your body, switches on your brain. So it's like having, a shot of an espresso or something like that, or taking some sugar or some chocolate. It will help turn on the fat burning pathways in your body. So that guy is exactly right. He's 100% correct. And thank you for mentioning that, because that validates what we're trying to achieve here. It also balances you out. So balance out the right brain and the left brain, brings calmness and just relaxes the neurogenic centers, the central nervous system and all that sort of thing. So,
mate, just amazing. And again, I've said to people for many years, because I didn't like Indian food or it was too hot, I had this whole thing. But the more I immerse myself in the lessons from India, and what I've literally been doing lately, one of the podcasts is called Empire. It's a fantastic podcast, and it starts with the history of the East India Company and what went on in India and how fantastic India was, particularly before the East India Company went into rape and pillage the joint. So I'm getting a whole another level of respect and appreciation for India and what's come out of India. And I've certainly been immersing myself in Sadhguru probably for before COVID, the lessons and the wisdom coming out of this. So it's a bit like me blaming the game of golf that I wasn't good at golf. It's not the game at all. And India, there's so much to be appreciated. And clearly you're just another example of the lessons and the depth of wisdom to come out of the place that we should be immersing ourselves in. So Greg, let me ask you this question. What motivates Greg Waters and why? What drives, what motivates?
That's a great question. So I retired from corporates 8 years ago, and I'm just really following in the master's footsteps. So the masters are so giving, so generous. The masters I've worked with, Master Choa Kok Sui, he's the pranic healing master, famous master, and Master Pranaji in Malaysia. They just devote so much of their time to other people. So it's a life of service. So my company is service based. We're just there to help people, help support people. We do have charges, obviously, because a company can't run without charges. Of course. But our charges are quite minimal. And as I said, the first consultation is always free. So yeah, I want to spread the teachings, the things that I've been taught. I want to help people who want to be helped. I work with some athletes, some ex-AFL people, some VFL footballers and things like that. And it's just, talking about how to get more performance out of yourself. That's really what drives me. I'm just trying to get more performance out of me. And like you, exactly like you with your business coaching and your swimming and your athletics and living as good as you possibly can, every day as good as you possibly can, not waking up with a headache, not waking up with a sore throat, not waking up because you've got sleep apnea and you're snoring, not waking up because you're groggy and you've got mental fog and all that sort of stuff. It's just a performance-based life, I guess, at the end of the day. That's it. That's what motivates me. It's not really money. Money is important. It's probably number 4 or 5 down the list, but it's sharing the teachings, working with people who are interested, passing on. Because if I don't pass on these teachings, I've been to the black blocks. Like I've been up in the Himalayas with masters and, told to wait for 2 weeks before they would see me and things like that. So if these things don't get shared, through my spiritual mentoring program, then how is it going to survive? So you have a responsibility to bring these things back from the back blocks of the Himalayas and spread them in the West so as they actually survive and they can be spread to wider communities.
Yeah, great. I'm conscious of your time. How much more time do you have? Because I think you said you've got a client coming around now, do you? Or how are you going time-wise?
That's okay. So they're now coming at 2:30. So if I can finish at 2:25, that's great.
Okay, perfect, mate. Perfect. So talking about sharing, what I'll do is, in the first instance, as you say, there's the Facebook page. So people can touch base with you via the Facebook page. But I see that surely you've written some books or you've got some information out there somewhere that people can find out and connect with you in some way. What's the story there?
So the best way to connect with me is just through my phone number. So the Facebook page was set up a long time ago in Singapore when everything was operating in Singapore.
Right. February 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm technically challenged and IT challenged, I don't look after anything except my text messages. So even emails. So the best way is, hi, Greg, how are you? It's Leigh. I'm interested in learning fire breath. Can I book an appointment?
Okay. So I'll put your phone number in the notes to all of these so that people can access you via your text. Yeah.
Excellent.
Divine magic, begin now. That's an instruction right there, isn't it? Instruction to the person, and instruction to the universe. So, Greg, let's just go in terms of mentors. Let's just talk about that for a second. teachers and your dad had that crucial conversation with you in regard to what university course to do. Give me some examples of mentors that have had a major influence, and you could mentor coaches, masters that have had major impacts on you in terms of you leading the best life you can possibly lead.
So Master Choa Kok Sui. So I did all the pranic healing courses. So I'm a pranic healing teacher. I teach that as well as yoga and some other things. So I'm always happy to teach anybody if they're interested in energy medicine. And pranic healing is just medical qigong. That's all it is. And Master Choa said that. So I worked with Master Choa when he was alive for 7 years. He's passed now. He would have the greatest influence. Stephen Coe is one of the other pranic masters that work with Master Choa. I see him quite regularly. He's in America. Who else would there be? James Nestor. I've never met James Nestor, but that book was phenomenal and changed my life.
Yeah.
Andrea as well. She's an encyclopedia on yoga, and I like you, when I'm in Perth, I make sure I go to her classes.
Yeah.
If not every day, every second day. So people like that have come into my life, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, Leigh. Absolutely, we are. We're only as good as the people that we've encountered. I was very, very lucky to meet Master Choa personally, to be invited to a meditation that he was holding. And I just had started to get back into meditation at that stage. I would say, yeah, Master Choa, Master Stephen Coe, Master Pranaji as mentors, but everyone you come in contact with,
Yeah.
you take away something.
Can teach you something. Yeah.
Yeah, that teach you something. And even the podcast that you do with Andrea, some of the information that she gave about yoga, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's interesting. I'll follow up on that. So it's every conversation, every podcast, and I'm always listening to understand, not listening to respond,
Yeah.
to try and garner more nuggets for myself. And so as I can share them with my clients, it's about sharing the wisdom and helping other people stand as tall as they can, be as strong as they can, be as fit and healthy as they can.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Brilliant. You've mentioned the breath book. What are some other books? Because we say leaders are readers, and as you made that point, there's a guy called Charlie Tremendous Jones, one of the speakers years ago, would say, you'll be the same person in 5 years as you are today, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. And he sold a lot of books with using that, but he's absolutely right. I mean, we say leaders are readers, and I've watched people around me who, one of my directors of one of the companies I'm associated with, Lifter, it's a local business networking organization. And James reads a book a week. He has a goal of 50 books a year. And then he said, I felt lazy. I met a woman in a bookshop. She reads 5 books a week. It's like, what the hell? But all of the things that he's learned, David Horlock from yesterday's podcast, he's fantastic readers. So it inspires me to read. And as you say, at times you go, but do I need another book? But it's interesting. Even last night, I rebought the E-Myth, the book on business and business systems, because I gave it to some clients a few months ago. And just one opening it up at a random page, there's lessons to be learned. They're talking about quantification and the importance of measuring. And when you measure, when you measure it, you can manage it. So tell me, books that have had major impact on you besides the breath book that people could get access to. And also I like to go, your reading routine. What is your habit? When do you read? In the morning, the night, lunchtime, in bed, sitting on a couch on a Saturday afternoon? It's always good to know how the strategy, the habit. So tell me those two things: important books and reading habit.
As a former journalist, I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
I try to read about 30 minutes every day as a minimum. I spend the weekends up on the Murray River at Yarrawonga, kayaking, and I lie on my yoga mat doing yoga, and the rest of the time reading. So pretty much these days, I mean, I have read all the classics, and I love Shakespeare, obviously Oscar Wilde. And there's great wisdom in what Shakespeare said. There's nothing good nor bad, thinking makes it so. So things like that. Great quotes of Confucius, which I share with all my clients. Great quotes of Master Choa's books. These days, mainly science and energy medicine and reviewing powders and what they can do, medical documents online from, the Institute of Medicine or the National Library of Medicine, reviewing peer group studies on different things. A lot of people would find that boring. That's what I like these days. So I don't really read a lot of novels or other books, and I've read most of the classics. There's books by Mantak Chia. So Mantak Chia is a master in Thailand, and his discipline is Chini Sung, which I'm trained in as well. So just brushing up my Bowen books. I'm a Bowen therapist too, like Andrea. So I brush up on my technique and making sure that I'm delivering the best possible service for my clients. So it's really just dedicated and improving in those science areas. That's pretty much my reading material. I have big, heavy books, and I read those before I go to sleep. And 1 or 2 pages, 1 or 2 pages in, I'm out like a light. So and I say that's one of the techniques I use. You have trouble sleeping, I say find a very boring book. So whether it's law, science, accounting, start reading it, and I guarantee after 2 pages you will fall asleep.
You just cured your insomnia habit. So just on that, when you mentioned Bowen therapy, my understanding of Bowen therapy is kind of a hands-on therapy, but so you're doing that over Zoom, or you're doing that in person?
I do that
yeah,
physically.
right.
So I do mobile Bowen all throughout Victoria. So I go to Echuca, I go to Yarrawonga, I go down to Sorrento. So I work with a Chinese doctor down there called Jo Hafey, which is Tommy Hafey's daughter. She's a Chinese.
Right.
And I work with another doctor in Melbourne. I work, we used to work with medical doctors up in Singapore. Dr. Maria was she would do all the bloods. So we like to take bloods before and after. So you've actually got, we did, you came in with cholesterol at 8 and you went out with cholesterol at 5. You came in with diabetes and now you don't have diabetes. So
wow. There's real objective data there. Yeah. It's not
like to gather the data and then change the blood work, change the body, change the mindset, and therefore get the data and say, well, there it is. That actually, if you do this, this, and this, it can be a little bit of a formula, even though every person is individual. If you do this, this, and this, you will get the result. You will take your cholesterol from 8 to 5.1, which I did with a lady in Echuca recently. So she went to the doctor, got put on statins, which spun her out. She was dizzy. She couldn't sleep. She was pretty much a mess. And she went back to the doctor, said, I can't take those. And he said, well, there's nothing else. There's no other way. And obviously he's been trained that way. And she said, well, I want a referral to a dietitian. He reluctantly wrote the referral. She went to the dietitian. And it was just at the end of COVID. And so the dietitian was quite busy and there was a 12-month waiting list. And then she spoke to the yoga teacher, and the yoga teacher said, why don't you try Greg? Greg did that stuff up in Singapore at the clinic in Singapore. And she said, really? And she rang me and said, oh, will you guarantee the work because you're not a doctor? I said, sure, I'll guarantee the work. No problem. If it doesn't work over the 16-week program, then you're entitled to a full refund. Signed a document and sent it to her. And after 12 weeks, she was booked in to do the test. So I said, sure, do the test, gave her all the protocols, worked with that 12-week period and to finish off the 4 weeks. And it was under the level of 5.5, which is about the cutoff, 5.56 of where they'll start to talk to you about putting you on statins.
Fantastic. Good story. That's another great case study. So I'm thinking when you mentioned energy medicine, I mean, interestingly, I got involved in corporate consulting because a guy called Greg Campbell, firstly had got involved in yoga, went to Muktananda for 2 years and then came back and started working in the public service in Canberra, started teaching meditation. This is in the late 70s, early 80s. And all the benefits they were getting in Canberra, and he talks about it in a book that he's written, a 700-page book that on Aboriginal culture called Total Reset, which I'll it's a podcast I've done, an interview, but he talks about the incredible benefits of yoga. And then I got involved with him. We were speaking at the same conference. And he said, mate, come and talk to me. We need you as a consultant. But all of the guys that worked in that group had been in India in orange robes as master practitioners of NLP and teaching Muktananda. But I knew nothing of any of this stuff, but somewhere in there we talked about you don't manage people, you manage energy, because their bodies can be at work, but their energy could be wherever. So can I ask you the question, let's just go deeper. When you talk energy and spirituality, what does spirituality mean to you? And I suppose somewhere between spirit, energy, universe, what does that mean to you, spirituality?
Connecting with a higher power, connecting with the universal mind, connecting with the divine. To be probably 100% truthful, I don't think we quite understand.
Mm.
I don't think we have all the answers. Maybe we're just scratching the surface of that something greater than outside ourselves, how the subconscious mind works, how it's all connected to the greater, you know, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, how it's all connected to that. So, and you know, the spirituality for me is pretty simple. It's just with your words, deeds, thoughts, and actions. So goodwill and the will to do good, try to be positive. You know, if you believe the research, we produce 30 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And they say, the scientists say 80% of those are negative. So human beings have a long way to go in terms of improving our positivity, improving our disposition, improving our reactions to things. And of course, not trying to be driven externally. So have that internal grounding, realize that I'm a collection of 30 to 100 trillion cells all glued together by consciousness, and not just, you know, muscles and bones and tissue. And that when I breathe in, I'm breathing in divine essence. And when I breathe out, I'm exhaling divine essence. And when I'm, you know, trying to view thought as a spiritual activity, because, you know, your brain is 95% water, there's no camera, and it creates, like, everything that's ever been created on the earth has come from a thing that is, you know, 4% of our body weight.
Amazing, mate, amazing. Greg, I'm just going to go through some of the notes that I've made here, besides the fact Footscray Institute, from Footscray Institute, it's a long way from Footscray Institute to where you are now. Varma Master, a long way from Channel 10 too, I imagine. Foods that inflame or de-inflame. Mate, that fire breath exercise is just fantastic. And the fact that you say we're 300% over breathing, and therefore what that then does in terms of internal chemistry, and then as you say, this nitric oxide and what's going on there in the nostrils that we're just not aware of. Clearly, the 16-week program that you have is truly transformational for people, not only in terms of their body weight, but as you say, their blood chemistry, and obviously then for the rest of their lives.
It's also you can do 4 weeks, 9 weeks, or 16 weeks.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
It doesn't have to be 16 weeks. So if someone wants to sample, obviously the cost is a lot less. Starts at about $390, and you can do 4 weeks, 9 weeks, or 16 weeks. And you fantastic. Can do, like, you know, I have a range of clients, and some people come to me just because they're in a lot of pain. Yeah, so they're having fibromyalgia, migraines, not sleeping well. So we address all those problems. So it's not, yeah, you know, obviously I like to work with 16 weeks because it gives me more time and it's better for people. But if people only have a small budget, they can come along and just try 4 weeks.
Right. Fantastic. Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic, Greg. Now, is there anything I haven't covered you'd like to cover before we move into the home straight? Anything we'd like to talk about before we move into that home straight?
I think for people listening, we could make a couple of suggestions. So yes, we could do a couple of giveaways. Hopefully they've listened to the fire breath. So, you know, the two most important things you can do, you can last a couple of minutes without oxygen. You can last about 10 days without water, and you can last about 30 days without food. So the two most important things you can do are make sure you're breathing properly and make sure you have access to oxygen and good quality oxygen. And the second thing you can do is make sure that you have access to good quality water, because not all waters are created equal. And whether that's a filter, whether that's a machine. We used to have the Kangen machines in the clinics in Singapore, and that used to totally reconvert the water. They used to use them in cancer hospitals in Malaysia, and obviously they're very big in Japan, but not a lot of people know about them. You don't have to go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a water machine, but just check it out properly. Just get a filter. Just make sure you have access to good water. Fire breath. And one of the things that I always recommend in my free talks and podcasts and things like that is chia seeds. Now, chia seeds are amazing plant-based protein and nutrition. A lot of people just sprinkle them out of the container onto their breakfast. That is definitely the wrong way to take chia seeds.
Oh,
They're like ball bearings. So if you put something that's a ball bearing in your body, it's going to be hard to break down, hard to digest. You need to activate it first. So activated chia seeds, which is minimum of 20 minutes in water, because it creates a gel called mucilage. And the mucilage is where all the magic is. So it's H2O mixed with the food, which produce the mucilage, which allow access to the minerals, vitamins, omega-3s, omega-6s, omega-9s, and the protein aspects of chia seeds. But chia seed is a high protein food. And when you add it to anything, it really, like if you want to tip it into your smoothie, if you want to tip it into your quinoa or your cornflakes or your rice bubbles, or have it with, have it in a chia pudding with yogurt and fruit and cinnamon, then it just, it's great, because what the magic of chia seeds is it decreases the appetite. So if you have that in the morning, you're going to have less appetite at night. You're going to be less hungry. And it's full of magnesium and full of manganese, which help with sugar cravings and things like that. So the first thing I do for people is one of the first things I say, do you have sugar cravings? They go, oh yeah, I get to about 6 o'clock and I've got to have chocolate. I've got to have something sweet. I've got to have dessert and things like that. And usually if someone has been to a naturopath, they will find, and done a test, they will find that they're low on magnesium. So it's because you're low on these things that your body is craving more energy, craving more nutrients to make ATP, adenine triphosphate, which you would know very well. And it's saying, give me more oxygen, give me more water, give me more of anything that will produce anything, produce energy. And usually that's like, the easiest thing is going to the chocky cupboard and putting your hand in for the chocky biscuits and the chocolate and putting it in your mouth. And then the body's like, oh, that's good. I can now make ATP. I can now make energy. But usually it's because you're deficient in something. And a lot of things are deficiencies. And through our testing, if people want to do the blood tests and through DNA testing and all that sort of stuff, you can come to a pretty easy conclusion about what the body is missing, and then do targeted supplementation rather than general scattergun approach supplementation, which is what most people do. And most people are actually wasting their money, because most of the things they're taking have fillers, don't line up with organic or, in terms of wholesome food or good for you, or poor quality. They'll spend $20 or $30, but it's like anything, it's more expensive for a reason, because it has a scientific test to say, actually, this is 100% organic chaga mushroom or reishi mushroom or moringa powder, and it comes from a valid source. It's not just something that's poor quality and in a way actually add to your problems, not help your problems. So a lot of people think they might be taking something. Oh, I'm taking that. And then I say, can you send me the packet? And I go, yeah, that one's not, it's not right. It's not good quality. You need this one there. And it's a little bit more expensive, but you only get what you pay for.
Right. Mate, there's been so much you've talked about today, Greg. It's been fantastic. People, I've got Greg's phone number, so I'll put that on the notes on our YouTube and on our Spotify and on our Apple podcast. Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you, mate. And let's stay in touch, because I think there's some good things we can do together. As Andrew said, namaste. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Inner X Power, folks. Greg, see you very soon.
Thanks, Leigh.
Thanks for your time.